Good evening, and the steering committee meeting is called to order. At this time, I call on the Vice Chair, Brad Turner, for the reading and approval of last month's minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I've had a chance to read those minutes. I find them in order and make a motion for their approval.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes. First item on our agenda is to announce a vacancy of District 19 County Commissioner seat being vacated by Commissioner Sean Kaplan. We need to appoint a judicial commissioner, Mrs. Sherry Hamlet. Is there a motion to send it to the full commission?
Make a motion to send it to the full commission.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Human resource budget re-presentation. Commissioners, Steve.
I don't know what you call me. Okay. Commissioner. Well, that would be a state job.
Yeah.
Okay. So really, all I did at your suggestion or offering, I went back and amended my budget and added in a part-time position at 20 hours a week for 10 hours, $10 an hour, which is what we had paid before, was $10 an hour. My admin assistant makes 12, and I thought that I needed to keep it below that. That wouldn't really be fair to her to pay somebody part-time more than I was paying her. And with that, with the change in my office from the person that just transferred over to risk management, with that and the changes in insurance and everything, the budget originally, would have gone up $12,480, but with the changes, it only went up $190. Is that right? Am I doing my math right? So my budget went up $190 by the one lady transferring out, the new lady coming in at a lower pay grade and adding in the part-time person.
So what will your staff look like?
I have a generalist that I handle anything that deals with the legal stuff of the office, those type things, complaints, investigations, and salary and compensation. Then my HR generalist does all of the FMLA. I also do the ADA and the Title VI, not only for Rutherford County government, but I do it for the entire county. So like, if there's a subpoena, a warrant, or anything, my name and phone number, or my office and phone number's on there, that I help get ADA assistance or Title VI, so if they need an interpreter or something like that, hearing impaired. So I do that for the entire county, not just county government, but the entire county. And then Lindsay does the FMLA processing, and then if it rolls over into ADA, I work with her on that for the interactive process. She deals with, or will deal with some, if there's an employee concern, to do an initial investigation for me. She's been helping with the 360 reviews. Those are what we do on the directors every other year or every third year, depending on how many we get done. And so I've been teaching her to do that process. We've done our first one in Chancery Court with Chancellor Bratcher. And then, so she handles all the medical stuff. Then Sandy, who is my coordinator, handles all the NeoGov. So she does all the job postings, job descriptions. She will be doing the onboarding, so she does all the orientations. Also, Lindsay does the training. I forgot that, the annual training. It's just so many things that they do, little pieces of the pie, but Sandy does the majority of the NeoGov. So anything to do with an applicant, a new hire. Also, if there are terminations, she sets up the file structure and those type things. The part-time admin assistant helps me in compiling data. I do all the open records requests, and that can be pretty extensive if a person's file is big, and so they go through and put that in date order for me and then scan it so I can redact and make sure that none of the confidential information. She answers the phone, she greets customers, she does intake, she does the filing, a lot of the filing, and things like that. So this person would come in and just do overflow filing, record keeping. Also, every 7 years we go through, or every year we go through and take something that's 8 years or older out of the record system that are terminated. And so they have to go through and then rescan all that data to make sure that we have it forever, because we have to keep an electronic copy for 30 years post-employment. That's just a brief rundown. Very brief, but.
Your staff, 2 full-timers and part-timer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, 3 full-timers and a part-timer.
3 full-timers and part-time, okay. And the part-timer is the only additional person that you're asking for?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any questions for Ms. Stevenson? So we approved the original budget, and then this is an add-on from last month.
Move to approve forwarded budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Sonia.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. And then the drug-free workplace policy update.
So, Josh McQuarrie and myself have spent some time on this, looking to make sure. There was a question posed by one of our constitutional officers, and so Josh and I have spent quite a bit of time, and the mayor's been involved as well, in researching to make sure that we were in compliance, that we weren't, violating any federal, state, local laws and those type things. Where the question came in was around whether we could legally ask somebody to do a drug test, and so we've researched that. We had a policy that we put in place July 1 of 2011. We started the drug-free workplace at that point in time. We had the policy and structure. What I'm bringing forth tonight is after our extensive research and communications, this is an amended in your copies, and I'll have to tell you what page it's on. So if you go into the drug-free workplace, the policy statement, let me see what page it's on. Josh, do you want to come up here? Sure. Yeah. So unless it's like highlighted in yellow, so it looks like, what page is that? Page 5, if you go to page 5 of 13. Where we're really looking at is defining what safety sensitive means, because we want to make sure that, one, those are the ones that get the random drug screens, and so we want to make sure that we have adequately defined safety sensitive. So in there, the verbiage that's been added is those individuals who work in corrections. That is required under their accreditation, that they have to have drug-free workplace and they have to have randoms. So that's added in there. Our probation and recovery services, because they deal with the legal aspects, the recovery services program requires that they do drug screening of all their employees as well. And then the one that wasn't clear was, routinely operate a vehicle to perform duties or machinery or equipment that require, like the heavy equipment, those type things, was the other criteria that we had. So if somebody who routinely through the course of their job was required to operate a county vehicle, that would be considered a safety sensitive, because the safety sensitive is defined as a position in which drug impairment constitutes an immediate and direct threat to public health or safety, or where an impairment may present a clear and present risk to coworkers, self, or others. It says, or a position in which a momentary lapse in attention could result in injury or death to another person. And then we added in, as defined in the county's list of safety-sensitive positions and as identified with the employee's job description. So to further clarify, we would be putting the employee on notice once, one, it would be with the job posting. So when we post future jobs, if it's a safety-sensitive, it will say, this is a safety-sensitive position, and would fall into that category. Additionally, their job description, whenever they would sign their job description, it would highlight the safety sensitive. So you have the Fair Labor Standards Act, whether they're exempt or non-exempt, their title, and whether it's safety sensitive will be the header of each job description. And then we will maintain a list by department, by title of, there's your copy, of the safety sensitive positions. And those would be included in this as well, so that we would maintain that, so that the employee or applicant would always know, or the volunteer, and we have volunteer firefighters as well, would know that they're part in a safety sensitive position. Are there any questions on that piece before I move on? The next item that I clarified a little bit, looks like it's 2 pages down, 7 of 13, was the reasonable suspicion. Well, also in Part A, it requires that it's a post-offer testing for the applicant drug or alcohol testing, it must be a post-offer. So it's like you can't drug screen somebody first and then say, well, if they don't pass, they don't get to be hired. They have to be hired first. It's a condition of post-offer. So continued employment is based upon a negative result.
Is that initial pre-employment conditional hire offer, is that every county employee or just safe sensitive?
Well, other agencies, and you're going to have to refresh my, other agencies, we have always done new employees. Everybody gets a drug testing.
Right, okay.
And that is something that's still the stance. They've always said that we could do a new hire pre-employment. That's never been an issue.
Right.
We can do a new hire, a post-accident, or reasonable suspicion of any employee. The randoms are and the fitness for duty are the only ones that are for those safety-sensitive positions. So, like, say somebody in my office, we don't operate machinery, we don't routinely drive a car, we don't work with children, those type things. So it doesn't put us in the classification for random testing.
Okay.
But like a building codes inspector who's out in the field every day, or animal control officer, somebody like that, that's somebody who operates a county vehicle, firefighter, those type things.
County mayor.
Yeah.
Operates his own vehicle.
Vehicles. Yeah. So those would be people that would be listed in that. And then the other thing in the reasonable suspicion is I further define what a reasonable suspicion is. It's testing if the employee exhibits behavior, speech, or body odor signifying use or misuse of alcohol or controlled substance. That was something that the Federal Department of Transportation adds in their policies, and so I thought that clarified it. Also, the other thing, our policy used to say that within 7 days after testing for reasonable suspicion, a detailed written documentation would be placed in the employee's file while we did it. But under the federal guidelines, it says within 24 hours, so I changed that to 24 hours.
Since you're talking about federal guidelines, I know I found this out inadvertently, but like over-the-road truckers, they can be tested for drugs and actually come up positive, but there's a level that they're okayed at. Is ours the
Yes.
same way? Or
That's going to be the
it's-
cutoffs. That's in here.
Okay.
There's a cutoff level.
I
So,
was wondering if excuse me, sir.
so what happens when somebody gets tested for alcohol or drugs, there is a cutoff level. And if everything goes to the medical review officer, like HR doesn't know, the department head, the elected official, nobody knows the result, it all goes to the testing site, and a medical review officer reviews every test. Any tests that are positive, then it is their responsibility to contact the employee, not mine. They don't contact me and say, Sonia's tested positive. They contact Sonia, and then they get more information. Is there a medical reason why this would show up in their system, or some other reason that they can explain? And once the medical review officer can determine whether they should be taking that or not be taking it, then that's when we get a positive and negative. An employee has 5 days after they test positive to dispute the positive. So what happens is if somebody tests positive, then I reach out to the employee and let them know. They already know, the medical review officer has already contacted them as well, and let them know that they have 5 days to contest. That means if you have some other information to bring forward that would cause this result to change, you need to do so. So then that employee has the opportunity then to appeal of sorts their result. And then if they don't do so within the 5 days, then the medical review officer sends a final notice that they are positive. So that's kind of how it goes. And they know the cutoff limit. So if it's within the cutoff limit, I don't ever see that because the doctor knows that. I don't know that.
Thank you.
Do they tell you, so even if they don't reach the limit, do they ever document, say that the employee did test positive but did not meet
No.
the minimum?
No.
So you could have someone with a problem that just happens to be the luck of the draw, and every time they get tested, they're below a limit. but it doesn't give you an indicator that there might be a problem there to get them some help or anything like that, or potential issue down the road?
I would not know that. So
Okay.
all I get is the result, and the medical review officer through talking with them
Mm-hmm.
and looking, somebody could have a prescription for a controlled substance. I mean,
Right.
they could have a prescription for that. What the doctor does, but in a very basic layout here, is they know the person's, their age, their weight, those type things, and they'll determine, did it have time to metabolize,
Okay.
based on when they took it, based on their prescription and based on the strength. Are they over-medicating?
Right.
If somebody over-medicates, even though they have a prescription, it'll come back a positive. So unless they can give a reason
But
why.
there's justification they can provide for that.
Correct.
That's kind of what I was
Or
wondering
maybe.
with some of the, codeine or some type of, traditional medicine that might be out there. How do you prevent that from always being always being flagged if it's legitimate, where you start thinking, well, maybe there is an issue here. This is the third time this employee is tested for this. But
I
it's
won't know
just,
that.
okay, that's what I was looking for. I just wasn't sure how we did that. Okay.
Anything that's, you have HIPAA and you have personal
Mhm.
health information,
Yeah.
all that stuff, I would not have access
Right,
to that.
right.
I never know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just was curious.
The follow-up drug or alcohol testing, this is really related to somebody who has, if they've self-admitted that they had an issue and came to HR and said, I have an issue and I need help. This is pre-testing. They've been pulled for a random. It's too late to say I have a problem because, you've already been pulled for a random. But if they come, a month before or something and say, I have an issue and I need some help, then after they complete, there's several things that happen depending on what their situation is. So I can give you all scenarios. But after somebody goes through a bona fide drug treatment, they've self-admitted, they've self-committed themselves to a program and gone through. After the completion of the program, when they return to work, they are randomly tested every month for the next 12 months. That's what this is stating. That's what that routine, the fitness for duty, the follow-up and the alcohol testing. Also, if somebody tests positive and does have a problem and they go get treatment, a bona fide drug treatment, it does make them eligible for rehire later if they've sought treatment and they have maintained, a lifestyle where they're not having problems. So that's what that next situation is. I added in, just in case there's an opportunity for us to be able to still fall within the guidelines of the drug treatment facilities, Section D of the post-accident testing. When there's a property damage, typically in the past, if there's been a property damage, they treat it just like a post-accident bodily injury type accident, and those individuals would go straight to the ER, which, somebody that's in an ambulance taking a patient to the hospital, if they, scrape the side of it with a mailbox, trying to get out, that doesn't necessarily mean, that they don't have bodily injuries. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they need to go to the ER. The ER charges us about $255 for every drug test, and we can do those at Concentra for $37.50, and we can do them in-house for $11.50. So that clause is added in there as other location as defined in the HR department, which meets all the other guidelines as long as it's sent to the facility and follows all the other testing guidelines, so that gives us the ability to not pay that $255 when it's a post-accident non-bodily injury. So, I think page 11 talks about understanding what a dilute sample is, where it can happen one of two ways. One of multiple ways, I guess, more than two. One, they drink an excess amount of water right before they're testing. And when I say excess, it's over 20 ounces. If they drink over 20 ounces of water, that will contaminate a sample. Or they bring in a sample, or if they're not in an observed collection, they can bring in other fluids within it. So that sample will come back as a dilute or a contaminated sample. They come back two ways. It comes back a dilute positive or a dilute negative. If it comes back a dilute negative, it's just like a negative. The doctor said it would have been, would have been negative either way. because they have the abilities now to determine if it's positive or negative. If it's a dilute positive, then the medical review officer has to determine, is it a positive or what? So that last column that last statement on number 2 just identifies that a little bit clearer. On the reporting structure for that is a positive or negative, just so that we're clear, because we do occasionally get dilutes back from our results. So I wanted to clarify that more so we'd have something in there. And that's it. Do you have anything to add?
Not specific. I will just, for my part, tell you a couple of things. We did do a tremendous amount of research. This is the research on the drug policy. And a lot of it was oriented around the safety-sensitive position component of it. So you all may know this, but in private employment, you've got lots of flexibility in drug testing. In public employment, it's much more restricted, and there are property interests at stake with public employment, and if you take drug tests when you're not allowed to, it can be a Fourth Amendment violation. So I think the best and most important thing in my view that has come out of this review is better identifying which positions are safety sensitive and earmarking those in advance so that people taking those positions know that they're designated as safety sensitive, which means they're also on notice that they'd be subject to random drug testing. So that should go, I think, a long way toward assuring that some individual who might want to claim that they got randomly drug tested and shouldn't have was on notice from the outset that they were in a safety sensitive position that would be subject to drug testing. That's it
Everybody
for
knows
me.
exactly what to expect.
You know what to expect. It's hard to complain, harder. I shouldn't say hard to complain, but
Right.
harder to complain, I think, if you know what to expect.
Okay, is there any, this is an update, there's no action from our part that
Well, no, I need it approved.
we need approved. Okay, is there any more questions? If not, I'll take a motion
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And then we have a list of lawsuits that the county is involved in. It is on your iPad, and our county attorney is here to answer any questions. I think this is just giving us a list. There may or may not be any discussion, but I will give you a few minutes if you do have any questions, that we will take time for that. If not, we will just move on. But it's on your iPad. Is there anything, Josh, that you want to add?
I mean, I can make one or two comments.
Okay,
I don't-
please.
Which I'm happy to do. So I have hard copies too, if you want those. I guess they are on your iPad. So at the last steering committee, I think there was a request. Actually, let me one of
Sure.
to create some kind of litigation list so that you're aware of what the litigations are. And so this is that first effort at that. I will call this a work in process because it's an ever-evolving item. It changes all the time. There were suits filed in March. There were suits resolved in March. And so I think at any given moment, this list could look differently. But it is a compilation of those cases by name, and then we kind of provided a one-liner there to give you some idea of what it's about without, of course, disclosing any sort of attorney-client privilege, but it gives you some idea what the case is. We categorize them in broad buckets with a county general bucket, a sheriff's office listing, a Board of Education listing. There are Board of Education cases where just the Board of Education is named, and those are not on this list. If the county was named, they're on this list. So there are times that the county and the board could get named in a lawsuit, and those are on this list. You'll see a category of pause cases. So these are, dog bite cases, and there are a decent number of those going on all the time. As you might expect, people are serious about their pets, and so those are ongoing. And then we started a list of recently resolved there at the back. And that will always be changing as well. And these are ones that were resolved just here in the last 30 or 60 days. In terms of broader categories, you'll see most of these fall into a couple of categories. There are employment-related cases. There are cases that you might call prisoner cases or detention cases where somebody in the prison's complaining about treatment or detention or something like that. There are accident cases, so there's some car wrecks, kids hurt at school and things like that that are in here. There are some land use cases. It could be a rezoning or something along those lines. And then you've got the pause cases, which I set out separately. My suggestion would be that if you look through these and there are cases that you want information on, of course, I'm happy to answer any questions anytime. You can call me whenever you want to, and I'll tell you whatever you want to know. In terms of a broader discussion about a case, I'm thinking that it might be smart for you all to flag them, and then we could handle it in an executive session at the next county commission meeting. That way we're not compromising the county's position by discussing it in detail in an open meeting. And, you know, we had that meeting in February, the executive session in February, and we can cover a lot of ground in a meeting like that. So if there are questions about specific cases, you might bring those to my attention or the mayor's attention, and we can schedule those for the next county commission meeting. For that matter, if you want to have an executive session every quarter or something, I don't know that you want to do it every meeting. Maybe you do. I'm happy to do it whenever you want to do it. But as often as you'd like to do it, I'm happy to do that. If you want to have one every quarter, just as a regular agenda item, we could do that, and we could discuss whatever cases anybody has questions on. So that gives you some idea what you're looking at. Again, I'm happy to answer questions about the list, but I would probably reserve detailed questions for
Since I asked for this,
Yes,
first
sir.
thing I want to tell you, this is exactly what I wanted to see.
Excellent.
Actually, even better, because I hadn't thought to tell you to put them in categories. You did.
Good.
And also, you put on there the ones that are going off, and that's something
Right.
I remember asking for this years ago when I was on steering, and we had over 100 cases at that time, so I was actually kind of pleased to see that we're not near at that level. So it's a lot better. We're in a lot better shape there as far as numbers go than we
Yes,
were
sir.
back at that time.
There are a lot of cases, but it could be worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Not saying,
Yeah.
you know, it's a good thing, but I appreciate this information. I'd like to see this ongoing if it's all right with the rest of the committee members. If that's not
can
a
do it.
hardship, and if it is, you know,
it's
and
not.
like you said, if there's something on there we're interested in, we can always come to you on the side if it takes executive meeting or whatever to get it discussed or see you one-on-one. But
I want you all to know whatever you want to know. So if this is a good way to present that information, I'm good with this.
Josh, is there a way, instead of hard copies, is there a way that we can put this to where, not only on the iPad, but we could go to our website and pull this up? A commissioner could go pull it up without having to.
This information is on the website.
This is?
Yes.
Is that on SharePoint?
Yes, on SharePoint, right there.
Okay.
Thank you.
The Paul case is mainly was like where the county is suing a citizen because they're not in compliance with the ordinance.
Yes, and what happens is, I mean, broadly speaking, what happens is Michael at PAWS he's the director at PAWS, identifies a situation that's going to require legal action. You know, they have a lot of interactions that don't get to the point that they have to file a complaint.
Right.
But when they raise to that level, he sends the file to us, and then the lawsuit is filed so that you can get a court order dealing with that dog. I mean, I say dog, it's almost always a dog. I guess it could be something else, but,
Oh, cat or something.
and, yeah. And there are,
We haven't declared any cats dangerous.
not yet.
Most of this is dangerous dog.
But if someone's little beagle puppy gets out, we can get that back in, they're not going to.
That will not be. No, these are when they persist and the person will not take, appropriate action to deal with their animal.
Okay.
And then you're out of options. Yeah.
Any more
Any other
questions for
questions?
Josh?
Good job.
I would just say that any major updates to any of these cases, that would be something good to at least update us on. But I think Commissioner Pease wanted something monthly, a whole list, or just updates?
Yeah, what
Okay.
we've got here is great. I mean, basically, you're gonna add one or two, or hopefully none, and take off a bunch.
I'll move the ones that resolve to the resolve list. At some point, I mean, if they've been on the resolve list for a few
Right.
months, I'll pull them off so that we have an ongoing list. Do you want me to come here and present it like this?
I mean, I don't want to force you to have to come. I mean, there's times when we do need you here.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
and I'd say the chairman just.
I wouldn't.
I'm just
see any-
asking, I don't want you
I
to wonder
think
where
if
I
it-
am next month if
No, I think if the
I'm-
commissioners see this on SharePoint and they would like your presence, maybe they can just give you a call. And
Okay.
You can answer the question on the phone, or if it's something that maybe you want the whole committee to hear, then obviously we would welcome you. But I wouldn't say that you need to come every month.
All right, that's what I'll do.
My main point on this is, I feel like we as commissioners need to exercise a little more oversight. And, I'm not hitting toward you or anything.
Yeah,
As a
no,
matter of fact,
sure.
I think you do an excellent job.
Thank you.
And all I'm saying is we need to do our job, and part of our job is staying on top of this.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Any other questions?
Do we need to talk about how we're going to fill the county commission District 19 position? Do we need to talk about how we're going to do that?
Okay, well,
Is there some guidelines, Mayor, that you've researched, or?
There are no guidelines that we have identified. That I read to you precisely what the Commissioner's Handbook said, at the last meeting. So you can,
Would it be appropriate, you guys, if there may be 3 applicants, there may be 10 applicants. What if we took all of those applicants, ask everybody to attend the next meeting, and then we nominate however many of those 10 or 3? And we can nominate and forward to the full commission to make a decision. I'm not sure that that's the best way to handle it, but I'm just kind of throwing something out there so that we don't get to next meeting and start
Okay, cool.
grappling over how we're going to fill that position.
so you're saying for us to make a recommendation, or just to send all the applicants to
No,
the full?
I think we can narrow the field. If there are 1 applicant that jumps out, or if there are 2 or 3 that jumps out that have experience, qualifications, reputation, then we'll nominate those 3 and send those 3 to the full county commission for the county commission to decide amongst those 3.
Well, I'd like for us to decide tonight if we're gonna go that route, how many. If it's the top 3, then we can choose the top 3, but if we're gonna choose a number, we'll just choose it tonight.
I don't know, well, to me, it might be hard,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. It might be hard because we don't know. There may be 5 former county commissioners that apply for the position, and all 5 of them might have those qualifications, but then again, there might just be 1. So I don't know. I don't know. But I'd like for us to just kind of have an idea where we're going before we get to next month's steering committee, and then try to hash that out at that time when we have a bunch of applicants here. Anybody have any thoughts about what we should do? Robert, do you have any thoughts? I know you've got a really good legal mind, so do you have any thoughts?
Well, I think that I don't want to be pigeonholed in just sending 1, but I don't want to put a definite number on it, because if we say 3 and there's 5 good ones, then we might shoot ourselves in the foot. So I think we should just leave it broad and say that the committee will review all the applications and send a recommendation to the full commission that might include 1 or 5 or 10. That we'll choose the best ones to send.
What if the steering, any member of the steering committee could nominate one of those and forward it on to the full commission. Would that be appropriate?
Well, like one committee member nominates,
No, if we knew there were two, and I nominated number one, and Brad nominated number two, nobody else would have to nominate. And those would be the two we sent on.
well, I think that in the past, when we have sent, like I think a school board member or something, we just sent there really wasn't a lot, and we just sent the whole slate to the full commission so that they could have an equal say. So if we do what you're suggesting, then if we, let's say there's 5 and we nominate three, then that leaves 2 out that's not going to get a fair chance, I suppose. Any commissioner at the full commission can nominate anyone. So,
I think that's probably what
Yeah.
we should do, is just move forward with whoever we get, make the recommendation to send it to the county commission, same as we would have done with, like you had mentioned, school board, or, you know, even, I think Robert's point, I think Jeff's getting at the same thing, is I certainly don't want to cut somebody off that wants to serve, and us being the 7 that say, well, you're not quite up to par. Well, I'm sure there's 50,000 people that say the same about us 7 sometimes in some form or fashion, but I would just assume next month, depending on the number that we get, we can just make a motion at that time to say move that slate of candidates forward to the county commission and make a decision as a commission body.
and I think that's what you're probably getting at. And if someone's left out for whatever reason, a commissioner could nominate that person at the full commission.
But you did clarify that the floor will be open. If any other commissioner wanted to nominate somebody from the floor, they could do that also.
I think that's always an
It's always,
Yeah, I mean, that's basically the
Yeah.
standard
Yeah,
operating
we would not
procedure.
shut down the nominations here, we would just move forward our slate.
But that person would, you've announced applicants that are choose to apply to submit an application. So what only point I was going to make, Mr. Johnson, I think you could nominate somebody, if this group didn't send all of the applicants forward,
right.
you could only nominate from the group that had made an application. You couldn't just out of the
At
blue
random.
nominate somebody else
At random.
at random.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Is that your understanding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Who is going to verify that the applicants meet all of the legal qualifications?
We will turn the list of applicants over to the election commission and let them give us a reading on that.
That would keep from illegally appointing somebody that wasn't in the district.
But we will, as soon as we get an
Due
application,
diligence.
we will turn it over to the election commission so that we don't have to do all this at the very last minute. Okay?
Did you get your original question answered to your satisfaction?
I'm not sure if I got it answered, but at least we know that out of the slate, we're going to be able to nominate one, more, or all. Okay, yeah, so I got it.
Okay.
Should we require the applicants to get a letter or something like this from the election commission that says they are registered to vote?
I think the mayor's office would get that letter.
Well, what if somebody applies 5 minutes before the close of business and they can't verify if they live in the district or not?
Well, then that's upon our wisdom to not vote for them, not to vote. That's-
They could show proof with their voter registration card. You know, that's got the district and everything on it.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean they still live there.
But certainly, we would certainly have time prior to the full commission meeting to have that information determined. Because you're going to have these applications at your next steering meeting, and it'll be several days. So we'll have that period of time to get all those applications reviewed by the election commission.
A lot of the people that are going to apply, we know them or we know where they live. And, you know, I've seen that. I mean, to
You
go back to
could-
the school board.
I mean, I guess it's
applicants.
understood, but if we get applications that don't meet the strict terms of being qualified, I don't think they should go forward and even have any discussion at the commission. I think they have eliminated themselves.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Any other business? Thank you, and this meeting stands adjourned.